Princess Yunji stood at the tall window of her palace room. She looked out at the 3 moons that hung in the purple sky of Hanseong Prime. Her silver-blue skin gave off a soft glow in the dim light. She sighed and touched the cold glass with her 6-fingered hand. "Another failure, Your Highness," said her attendant Hana, who bowed low at the door. "The prince from the Tai-Yang system has quit the 3rd trial. He was badly hurt, but he will live." Yunji turned, her face showing no surprise. "That makes 26 then." 27, Your Highness." Hana corrected gently. "You forgot the, ambassador's son who failed last month. So many faces, so many failures." Yunji walked to her desk, where a star map showed all 57 systems of the Celestial Empire. Father must be worried. As if summoned by her words, the door slid open. Emperor Daeho entered, his long blue robe sweeping the floor. Unlike his daughter, whose skin glowed only when she spoke, the emperor's entire body pulsed with bright light that showed his troubled mood. "Daughter," he said, his deep voice filling the room. "We must talk." Hana bowed again and quickly left. Closing the door behind her, the emperor did not sit. He paced the room, his light growing brighter with each step. "The Taiyang Federation has sent a message. They are angry that their prince failed the trials. They say the tests were made too hard on purpose." "The tests are the same as they have been for 1,000 years, Yunji said. "They threaten to leave. The council, the Biol Collective says the same." The emperor stopped pacing and looked at his daughter. "You know what our laws say. You must marry before your 30th cycle or you cannot rule." Yunji touched the mark on her wrist. 29 lines, 1 for each cycle since her birth. Soon, a 30th would appear. "I know the law, father." "Then you know what is at stake. If you do not take the throne, your cousin Tae will claim it. He is not ready. He would lead us into war." The emperor's light dimmed as he spoke of this dark future. Our empire would fall. Yunji knew he was right. Cousin Tae was smart, but cruel. He believed that the celestial people should rule all other species, not just guide them. If he became emperor, blood would flow across the stars. "What would you have me do?" she asked. "I cannot make someone pass the trials. They test if a match is right, if the suitor is worthy." The emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled a small device from his robes and placed it on the desk. It lit up and showed a hologram of a planet, a blue and green world that spun slowly in the air. Between them, "Earth," he said. Yunji looked closely at the small planet. "The home of humans. They joined the council only 3 cycles ago. They are very new to space travel." "Yes, and they are different from other species we know." "They are weak," Yunji said, repeating what everyone knew. "They cannot control energy. They cannot see all dimensions. They live only a short time." The emperor smiled slightly. "And yet they have done things that amazed us. They have adapted to problems in ways we did not expect. Their minds work differently." Yunji began to understand. "You want to invite them to the trials? A human suitor?" "Not just invite them. I want to open the trials to all species." The emperor's light pulsed with excitement. "My advisors think it is time. The old ways are not working." "The noble houses will be angry," Yunji warned. "Let them be angry. We need new blood, new ideas." The emperor touched another button on the device. The image changed to show a human male in a uniform. "This one interests me. Captain Jiho Kim. He solved the crisis of broken moons 2 cycles ago when all our experts failed." Yunji studied the image. The human looked strange to her eyes, small with only 5 fingers on each hand, and skin that did not glow at all. But there was something in his eyes that caught her attention. A quick mind, perhaps, or a kind heart. "Send the invitation, then," she said. "But do not expect much. The trials have broken beings much stronger than this human." On Earth, in the headquarters of the Space Fleet, Captain Jiho Kim stood at attention before Admiral Moon. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Jiho asked. The Admiral handed him a tablet. This came from the Celestial Empire an hour ago. It's for you. Jiho read the message, his eyes growing wider with each word. This is a joke, right? It's real. The Celestials. Don't joke. Admiral Moon leaned back in his chair. They're inviting you to compete in their royal trials to try to marry their princess. Jiho read the message again. But why me? I'm nobody special. They mentioned the Broken Moon situation. You impressed them. The Admiral studied Jiho's face. The Celestials are the most powerful species in the Council. This is a big deal for Earth. If you accept, you'd be the first human to set foot on their homeworld. Jiho thought about it. He had seen Celestials before during council meetings. They were tall, beautiful beings who could do things humans could only dream of. Their princess would be even more amazing. I'll never pass their trials, he said, honestly. No one has in years. Probably not, the Admiral agreed. But that's not the point. This is about showing the galaxy that humans deserve respect, that we belong at the table with the older species. Jiho nodded slowly. He understood duty, and he was curious. What were these famous trials? What would the royal palace of the Celestial Empire look like? I'll go, he decided. When do I leave? Tomorrow. A celestial ship is already on its way to get you. The Admiral stood and offered his hand. Good luck, Captain. Don't embarrass Earth. News of the human suitor spread quickly across the Empire. In the grand meeting hall of the palace, the noble houses shouted their anger. A human? In the royal trials? It's an insult, yelled Councillor Yoon, his skin flashing bright red. They are barely more than animals, agreed Lady Suk. They don't even live past 100 cycles. How could such a creature be worthy of our princess? Emperor Daeho let them shout until they grew tired. Then he raised his hand and silence fell. The invitation has been sent and accepted. Captain Jiho Kim of Earth will arrive in 3 days. He will compete in the trials like any other suitor. He will fail, said a cold voice from the back of the room. All eyes turned to see Tae, the Emperor's nephew, step forward. He was handsome but had a cruel set to his mouth. The human will fail, Tae said again, and when the princess has no husband by her 30th cycle, I will claim the throne, as is my right. The Emperor's light dimmed with anger. Do not be so quick to plan your rule, nephew. There is still time. Very little time, Tae smiled, and after the human fails, there will be no time left at all. As the nobles argued, no one noticed Princess Yoonji watching from a hidden balcony above. She had heard everything. The fate of the empire hung in the balance. And somehow a small, short-lived human from a faraway planet had become the key to everything. She touched the marks on her wrist again. 29 lines. One more would appear soon. And then, if there was no husband, no worthy match, everything would change. Yoonji looked up at the stars visible through the crystal ceiling. Come quickly, human, she whispered. Come and surprise us all. 3 days later, Jiho stepped off the celestial ship onto the soil of Hansung Prime. He had never seen a planet so beautiful. Tall buildings made of crystal reached up to touch the purple sky. Flying vehicles moved between them like fish in water. The air smelled sweet, like flowers after rain. Captain Kim, said a voice beside him. I am Bin, the royal engineer. I will be your guide during your stay. Jiho turned to see a celestial man bowing slightly. Bin was tall, with the same silver-blue skin as all celestials, but he wore simple clothes instead of fancy robes. Thank you, Jiho said, bowing back. I'm glad to have a guide. This place is overwhelming, Bin smiled. Yes, humans often feel that way at first. Come, a room has been prepared for you in the palace. Tomorrow, you will meet the Emperor and Princess. As they walked through the wide streets, people stopped to stare at Jiho. Some pointed, others whispered behind their hands. A few children ran up close to look at his 5-fingered hands before their parents pulled them away. They have never seen a human before, Bin explained. You are the first to visit our world. I'm not making a very good first impression. Jiho said, noticing how small he looked next to the tall, glowing celestials. They probably think I'm weak. Bin gave him a curious look. Perhaps, but strength is not always what it seems. They arrived at the palace, a massive building that seemed to be made of light itself. Inside, servants showed Jiho to a large room with a bed, a desk, and a window looking out at the three moons. Rest well, Bin said. You will need your strength for tomorrow. When Bin left, Jiho sat on the bed and pulled out a small device. He had done his homework during the 3-day journey. The device showed records of past royal trials. Jiho had watched them all, studying each failure, looking for patterns others had missed. The first trial was a maze that changed shape as you moved through it. Most suitors had tried to memorize the path or use force to break through walls. The second trial involved communicating with the living ocean that covered half the planet. Suitors had used complex technology or telepathy with poor results. The third trial took place in something called the Chamber of Reflections. No one knew exactly what happened inside, but those who came out were never the same. Jiho put the device down and looked out at the moons. He wasn't as strong as the other suitors. He couldn't control energy or read minds. But maybe, just maybe, that was an advantage. He would try different approaches. Human approaches. The next morning, Jiho stood in the great throne room. Hundreds of celestials watched from balconies above. Their skin glowed with different colors, some blue, some green, some purple, making the room look like it was filled with stars. Emperor Daeho sat on a throne made of crystal. Beside him, Princess Yunji watched Jiho with curious eyes. Jiho bowed low. Thank you for the invitation, Your Majesty. The Emperor's skin pulsed with light as he spoke. Captain Kim of Earth, you are welcome to our world. Do you understand why you are here? I am to participate in the royal trials, Your Majesty. Yes, the trials that 27 others have failed. The Emperor leaned forward. Do you think you can succeed where they did not? Jiho looked at the princess. She was even more beautiful than he had imagined. Her eyes seemed to hold wisdom beyond her years. I don't know, Your Majesty, Jiho said honestly, but I will try my best. A laugh came from the side of the room. Jiho turned to see a celestial man with cold eyes watching him. Such modest goals, the man said. At least the others boasted of victory before they failed. This is my nephew, Tae, the Emperor said, frowning at the interruption. He believes the trials are a waste of time. Tae bowed, but his eyes stayed fixed on Jiho. I simply question the wisdom of letting a human attempt what our greatest minds could not achieve. Jiho met his gaze. Sometimes a fresh perspective can help solve old problems. Well said. The princess spoke for the first time. Her voice was clear and musical, making her skin glow softly. The first trial begins tomorrow at dawn. You should prepare, Captain Kim. Jiho bowed again and followed Bin out of the throne room. You made an enemy just now, Bin said as they walked. Tae wants the throne for himself. If the princess does not marry before her 30th cycle, he will rule. When is her 30th cycle? In 20 days. Jiho stopped walking. 20 days? I thought I would have more time. There is no more time, Bin said simply. That is why the Emperor opened the trials to all species. It was a last hope. That night, as Jiho studied for the first trial, there was a knock at his door. He opened it to find Princess Yunji standing there wearing a simple blue robe. Your Highness. Jiho bowed quickly. I didn't expect. May I come in? She asked. Jiho stepped aside, wondering if this was normal. Did the princess visit all suitors the night before the trials? Yunji walked to the window and looked out at the moons. I wanted to see you again to understand why my father chose you. I've been wondering the same thing, Jiho admitted. The princess turned to him. You solved the crisis of broken moons when no one else could. How? Jiho thought back to that mission. 2 moons around a colony world had been on a collision course. The impact would have killed thousands. Everyone was trying to move the moons. he explained. Push them apart with ships or energy beams. I realized we could use the gravity of a passing comet to pull one moon into a higher orbit instead. You saw a different path, Yoonji said. That is rare. She moved closer to him. Captain Kim, I must be honest. These trials are not just tests of strength or intelligence. They test compatibility. Compatibility? With what? With me. The princess held up her wrist, showing the 29 marks. The ruler of the Celestial Empire must have a partner who complements them, someone who sees things differently but works toward the same goals. Jiho suddenly understood. That's why so many have failed. They were trying to prove themselves better than others, not to show they could work with you. Yoonji smiled, her skin glowing brighter. Perhaps you do have a chance, human. She walked to the door. One piece of advice. In the maze tomorrow, trust yourself more than your eyes. After she left, Jiho sat on his bed, thinking about what she had said. Trust yourself more than your eyes. What did that mean? As he fell asleep, plans formed in his mind. He would not approach the trials like the others had. He would do it the human way. His way. Outside his window, the 3 moons aligned, casting strange shadows across the crystal city. In 20 days, everything would change. For the princess, for the empire, and perhaps for humanity itself. Dawn came with soft purple light over the crystal city. Jiho stood at the entrance to the maze, wearing the simple white suit Bin had given him. Around him, officials and nobles watched from viewing platforms. Emperor Daeho sat on a floating throne, while Princess Yoonji stood nearby, her face calm but her eyes showing worry. The first trial is the maze of changing paths, announced a tall celestial with a deep voice. You must reach the center and return with the silver token. You have 1 hour. Jiho looked at the maze. From above, it looked simple enough. Just walls made of clear crystal that formed paths leading to the center. But he knew that once inside, the walls would move and shift, trapping those who relied only on their eyes. Trust yourself more than your eyes, the princess had said. Tae stepped forward, smiling coldly. I wish you luck, human. The last suitor spent 3 days lost in there before we had to rescue him. Jiho nodded but said nothing. He took a deep breath and stepped into the maze. At first it seemed easy. The crystal walls were clear so he could see which way to go. He made 3 turns and was moving toward what looked like the center when suddenly the ground shook. The walls began to move, sliding into new positions. What had been a path was now a dead end. What had been a wall was now open. Jiho stopped walking. This was why others had failed. They kept trying to find the right path with their eyes, but the maze changed too quickly. He remembered the princess's words and closed his eyes. Trust yourself more than your eyes, he whispered. With his eyes still closed, Jiho reached out, his hands to feel the walls. The crystal was cool to the touch. As he stood there, he noticed something strange, a very soft sound, like music. It seemed to come from one direction. Jiho began to walk with his eyes closed, following the faint music. When the ground shook again, he stayed still until it stopped, then continued forward, always moving toward the sound. Sometimes he had to turn or go back, but he never opened his eyes. From the viewing platform, the nobles watched in surprise. What is he doing? Asked one. He's walking with his eyes closed, said another. Is this some kind of human trick? Princess Yoonji watched with growing interest. No, she said softly. It's understanding. In the maze, Jiho kept moving forward, following the music that grew louder with each step. Finally, his hands touched something smooth and round, the silver token at the center of the maze. He picked it up but kept his eyes closed. Now he needed to find his way back. The music changed, coming from a different direction. Jiho followed it again, moving carefully through the shifting paths. When the ground shook, he waited. When the music moved, he changed direction. And after 20 minutes, less than half the allowed time, Jiho stepped out of the maze. The silver token in his hand and a smile on his face. The crowd was silent with shock. Then Bin started to clap and others joined in. Jiho opened his eyes at last and bowed to the emperor and princess. "How did you do that?" Tae demanded, his face showing anger and surprise. Jiho held up the token. "I listened instead of looking. The maze has a pattern, a kind of music in the way it moves. I followed it." The emperor leaned forward, his skin glowing brightly. "No one has ever completed the maze so quickly. You have passed the first trial, Captain Kim. Rest today. Tomorrow comes the second trial, the living ocean." That evening, as Jiho sat in the palace garden thinking about the next challenge, Bin found him. "You did well today," the engineer said, sitting beside him. "But the ocean is different. It has rejected everyone who has tried to connect with it." "What exactly is this living ocean?" Jiho asked. "It covers half our world. It thinks. It feels. Long ago our people could talk to it, but that ability was lost. Now the ocean speaks only to the royal family and only barely." Bin looked troubled. "Suitors must prove they can communicate with it too." Jiho thought about this. "How have others tried?" "Some used machines to translate their thoughts into patterns the ocean might understand. Some tried telepathy. One even tried to force the ocean to respond by adding chemicals to a small part of it." Bin shook his head. "That one made the ocean very angry." "I see." Jiho was quiet for a moment. "On Earth we have oceans too. They don't think like yours, but they have patterns. Tides, currents, waves. They respond to the moon, to the wind, to the earth beneath them." "How does this help you?" Jiho smiled. "I'm not sure yet, but I think I need to learn more about your ocean before tomorrow." Late that night, Jiho snuck out of the palace. He carried a small bag with some items he had asked Bin to find for him. He made his way through the sleeping city until he reached the shore of the living ocean. In the light of the 3 moons, the water looked alive even to his eyes. It moved in ways that no Earth ocean would, forming shapes and patterns that almost seemed like words. Jiho sat on the shore and watched for hours, listening to the sounds the ocean made as it moved. Sometime near dawn, he pulled a small wooden flute from his bag, a simple instrument he had carved himself years ago on Earth. He put it to his lips and played a soft melody that matched the rhythm of the ocean's movements. As he played, the water near the shore began to move differently, forming small peaks that rose and fell with his music. Jiho smiled. He had found a way to speak to the ocean. The next morning, a large crowd gathered at the shore for the second trial. A platform had been built extending into the water. Jiho stood at the end of it with the emperor, princess, and officials nearby. "The second trial is communication," announced the same official from yesterday. "You must make the living ocean respond to you in a way that shows understanding." Tae stepped forward again. "Others have tried for days without success," he said loudly so everyone could hear. "The ocean does not speak to outsiders." Jiho looked at Princess Yoonji. She was watching the water with a strange expression, as if she could hear something no one else could. "You have 1 hour," the official said. Jiho knelt at the edge of the platform. From his pocket he took out his wooden flute. The crowd murmured in confusion. "What is that primitive thing?" someone asked. "A musical instrument from Earth," Jiho replied. Then he began to play. The melody was simple at first, following the rhythm he had observed the night before. The ocean continued its normal movements. Jiho kept playing, slowly changing the tune to match the new patterns forming in the water. After 10 minutes, people noticed something strange. The water near the platform was moving in time with Jiho's music. Small waves rose and fell exactly with the notes. Jiho changed the melody again, making it more complex. The ocean responded, forming shapes that grew larger and moved in circles around the platform. Princess Yoonji stepped closer, her eyes wide. "It's dancing," she whispered. Jiho played faster, and the ocean moved faster. He played a sad tune, and the water turned dark blue. He played a happy song, and the water sparkled with light. Then, as the crowd watched in amazement, the ocean rose up in a huge column in front of Jiho. The water shaped itself into what looked like a hand, but with 6 fingers like the Celestials. Jiho stopped playing. The water hand stayed in place, waiting. Slowly, Jiho reached out his own 5-fingered hand. The water hand moved forward and touched his fingers. It was warm, not cold as water should be. It recognizes you, Princess Yunji said in wonder. It has never done that for any suitor. The water hand pulled back and sank into the ocean. Then, most amazing of all, the entire ocean surface changed color, turning from blue to a soft green, the color of Earth as seen from space. The crowd was completely silent. Then the Emperor stood, his light pulsing brightly. The second trial is passed, he announced. Captain Jiho Kim will proceed to the final challenge tomorrow, the Chamber of Reflections. As Jiho walked back through the crowd, he saw Tae's face. The Celestial no longer looked amused or confident, he looked afraid. That night, Jiho could not sleep. Tomorrow he would face the final trial, the Chamber of Reflections. No one would tell him exactly what happened inside that chamber. He only knew that it tested a person's deepest self, and that many strong and brave suitors had run from it screaming. A soft knock at his door broke his thoughts. He opened it to find Bin looking worried. "I need to speak with you," the engineer said, stepping inside quickly. "It's about tomorrow's trial." "What about it?" Bin's voice dropped to a whisper. "The chamber has been changed. Tae has ordered it to be set differently for you." Jiho frowned. "Changed how?" "The Chamber of Reflections normally shows you your fears, your doubts, your weaknesses. But for you," Bin hesitated, "for you it will be much worse. Tae has programmed it to create terrors specific to humans." "Can he do that? Is that allowed? He is of royal blood. Few question him." Bin looked at the door nervously. "I could be punished just for telling you this." "Then why are you telling me?" Jiho asked. Bin's skin glowed softly in the dim room. "Because I have watched you pass 2 trials that no one thought you could pass. Because I have seen how the princess looks at you. And because I think the Empire needs someone like you." Jiho sat down heavily on his bed. "What should I do?" "I don't know," Bin admitted. "But I thought you should know what you're facing. The chamber as it's set now, it might break you." After Bin left, Jiho stared out his window at the 3 moons. He had come this far. He had passed tests that 27 others had failed. But this final challenge seemed designed to make sure he would fail. What would make it different for a human? He wondered aloud. What fears do we have that Celestials don't? As he thought about it, understanding dawned on him. Celestials lived. For hundreds of years they had great powers, they rarely got sick. Their fears would be different from human fears. They don't fear death the way we do, Jiho realized. They don't understand how it shapes us. With that thought, a plan began to form in his mind. The next morning, a smaller crowd gathered at a round building at the edge of the palace grounds. This was the Chamber of Reflections. Its walls were made of a dark material that seemed to swallow light. Princess Yunji stood with her father. She looked at Jiho with concern in her eyes. "The final trial is acceptance," announced the official. "You must enter the chamber and face what lies within. If you emerge with the crystal key, you have passed. There is no time limit. Because those who fail never come out at all," someone in the crowd whispered loud enough for Jiho to hear. Tae stepped forward, smiling his cold smile. "Good luck, human. I hope your species has prepared you for what awaits." Jiho looked at him calmly. "Thank you for your good wishes." The door to the chamber opened with a sound like a sigh. Jiho walked forward, his head held high. Just before he entered, he looked back at Princess Yunji. "No matter what happens," he said, "thank you for the chance to try." Then he stepped inside and the door closed behind him. The chamber was dark and cold. Jiho could see nothing at first. Then slowly, a dim light grew around him, showing a small, round room with smooth walls and no furniture. In the center of the floor lay a crystal key. That's too easy, Jiho thought, and he was right. As he took a step toward the key, the room changed. The walls seemed to melt away, showing a vast empty space. The floor beneath his feet became transparent, and Jiho found himself standing on what looked like nothing, with stars all around him. Then the stars began to move. They swirled around him faster and faster until they formed images. Terrible images from human history. Wars, diseases, natural disasters, all the ways humans had suffered and died over thousands of years. "This is your species," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere. Short-lived, weak, always afraid. The images changed to show Earth itself burning, breaking apart, vanishing. "This is your future," the voice said. "Everything you love will end." Jiho felt fear rising in him. His heart beat faster. His hands shook. This was what the chamber did. It found your deepest fears and made them real. But Jiho had expected this. He had thought about what made humans different from celestials. Humans lived with death every day. They knew their time was short. That knowledge shaped everything they did. Instead of fighting the fear, Jiho did something unexpected. He sat down cross-legged on the transparent floor and closed his eyes. "Yes," he said calmly. "We humans are short-lived. We are physically weaker than many species. And yes, we fear death." The images swirled faster, becoming more terrible. The voice grew louder. "You will die. Everything dies. Why struggle? Why try?" Jiho kept his eyes closed. "Because that's what makes us human. We know we will die, but we live anyway. We love anyway. We create anyway." He opened his eyes and looked at the swirling images of Earth's destruction. "Our time is short, so we make it count. We don't have centuries to think about things. We must act, decide, live now." The images slowed slightly. The voice seemed confused. "You accept this fate?" "I do," Jiho said. "And that acceptance gives me strength, not weakness." He stood up and walked toward where the key had been. The images tried to block him, showing him his own death, the deaths of everyone he had ever loved. But Jiho walked through them, as if they weren't there. "Fear exists," he said as he walked. "Pain exists. Death exists. I accept them all as part of life." As he spoke these words, the swirling images began to fade. The terrible voice grew quiet. The chamber returned to its original form, a small, round room with smooth walls. The crystal key lay on the floor where it had been. Jiho picked it up. As his fingers touched it, the key glowed with warm light. The door of the chamber opened. Jiho stepped out, blinking in the bright sunlight. The crowd stared at him in shock. No one had expected him to emerge, let alone so quickly. Princess Yunji stepped forward, her eyes wide. "You passed the trial." Jiho held out the crystal key. "I did." "But how?" Tae demanded, his face pale with disbelief. "The chamber was set to your worst fears. No one could withstand that." "I didn't try to withstand it," Jiho explained. "I accepted it." The Emperor moved forward, his light pulsing with excitement. "You have passed all 3 trials, Captain Jiho Kim of Earth. According to our oldest laws, you have earned the right to ask for my daughter's hand." Jiho looked at Princess Yunji. Her silver blue skin glowed softly as she watched him. "With respect, Your Majesty," Jiho said, "I would like to speak with the princess first. Marriage should be a choice, not just a prize." The crowd murmured in surprise. No one had ever said such a thing before. The Emperor looked at his daughter. "Yunji?" The princess smiled, her glow brightening. "I would like that very much." As they walked away from the crowd, Princess Yunji touched Jiho's hand with her 6-fingered one. "You could have simply claimed victory," she said. "Why didn't you?" Jiho smiled at her. "Because a true partnership isn't about winning or losing, it's about choosing each other." The princess's glow became as bright as the sun. "And is that what humans do? Choose each other?" "The best ones do," Jiho said. "And I think that's something our peoples could learn from each other." Above them, the 3 moons began to align in the daylight sky. A new cycle was beginning, for the princess, for the empire, and for humanity's place in the stars.